Let's read some comments, okay? Let's read some comments. This is from a video I put up last night, early this morning, and I appreciate you guys engaging with me on this. And I want to respond, engage, expand on this dialogue and this discussion, this conversation. And let's see here. We've got Kevin. As an apartment manager in the 80s, I saw this. I was concerned then because our rental company kept raising rent when our renters' income wasn't going up. I kept telling them this. They did not listen. There's no way we can pay these rates any longer. The renter is now a Hunger Games player. You can bet on it. Yeah. The problem is, they have to try, okay? And essentially, if the market's telling them that they can raise the rent, or at least giving them some indication that they could try to raise the rent, then they will. Eventually, they're going to hit that breaking point where they realize that they've reached a point of diminishing returns, and then will either keep the price where it is or lower it. But much like we have seen with a lot that's been going on the last 12 to 18, 24 months, the consumer in general, based on the broader sense, is resilient. And despite how high housing and home prices get, despite how high interest rates go, despite how expensive cars and trucks are, despite how much food costs, despite how much travel costs, despite all these things, the consumer remains resilient and continues to pay. And therefore, without any sort of demand destruction, this will continue on. The greed will continue and ensue. And unfortunately, that just means that for those who aren't in that renter pool where their pay rates aren't going up proportionately with the rent, they will be forced out. They will be forced out. Where they go, where they end up, anybody's guess. But to these greedy landlords, they don't really care. The next one here is from Sarah. Are they doubling the rent on people to easily force out who they don't want there, knowing someone else might be able to afford it? My neighbors were renters at the same house for over 10 plus years. Rent was going to go up significantly more, and the owners maybe knew they couldn't afford it, so easy way to replace them with people that could afford it. Sarah, as always, thank you for your input and for the comment and inspiring this conversation, adding to this conversation. And essentially, it's gentrification. No matter how you want to look at it, it's gentrification. This has happened. It is happening. It will continue to happen. And unfortunately for some, history, loyalty, all these things go out the window when they're more focused and concerned on money, the bottom line, end all be all. Now, granted, you could be a tenant for 10 years, an amazing tenant for 10 years. And then we see the changes that we have seen in the market over the last 4 years, 3 to 4 years. The owner, the landlord, would then have to make a business decision. And I would like to think that this business decision actually involves some heart and compassion, but it can't always. For instance, you're a renter for 10 years, amazing, pay on time, pay early, no issues, no complaints. And then 2020 rolls around, okay? 2020 rolls around, and here we are just days away from 2024. And although the landlord would prefer to be, not be a, what's the term for the landlord? Slumlord or evil I don't know what the term is. It's like, I think there's a term for like just a terrible landlord, just whatever. They too are people trying to build generational wealth, trying to increase their net worth, trying to create a passive income lifestyle that can sustain them in retirement, theoretically, and ultimately have overextended themselves and stressed themselves too thin in their real estate investment venture, okay, or adventure at this point. And so basically what happens is, let's see, my mic is turned around. Basically what happens is maybe in their portfolio, they have 5 properties and you are an amazing tenant, but the other 4 are not. The other 4, there's been some issues, whatever. So in order to protect themselves and cover themselves, and maybe they've fallen on hard times financially in a variety of other ways, and they have to get that money. And they're saying to themselves, well, you've been renting here for 10 years and we love you as a renter, as a tenant. You couldn't ask for anything more, but we personally, our business and our personal finances require us to make more money for whatever reason that may be. The market that you're in, we could easily charge 50% more in rent, maybe 100% more, doubling the rent. We could probably pull it off, depending, because we haven't increased rent over the last 10 years, but now we can substantially because of the last 4 years. And we have to, otherwise we're going to lose everything. And it's not necessarily a personal attack and they want you out, but they do want and or need the increase that they could potentially get. Now, granted, that could backfire. The grass isn't always greener on the other side, and whoever they put in place of you after that point could be a terrible business decision and could ruin them as well. That's a challenge too. But this actually leads into another comment from Cindy, and it says, look up the laws in your state regarding rent increase. In California, you can only raise it 10% a year. So naturally, I look it up, trust but verify. I appreciate the input, and you're absolutely right. Limits on rent increases, according to the Landlord Tenant Issues state of California, landlords cannot raise rent more than 10% total or 5% plus the percentage change in the cost of living, whichever is lower over a 12-month period. If the tenants of a unit move out and new tenants move in, the landlord may establish the initial rent to charge. So, and this is what I was talking about before with the loopholes, okay? So yes, you are absolutely right, 100% correct. There is a limit. And granted, there's a mathematical calculation here and the cost of living, et cetera. But the caveat here is that if they replace the tenant, then they can make the rent whatever they want for the new tenant, okay? And I can honestly, unfortunately, see that happening, similar to the situation that Sarah brought up in Florida. I'm sure it's in Florida. And granted, Florida is a little bit different. Florida landlords can raise rent by any amount that they want to. In fact, Florida doesn't have any legal limits on or caps on rent increases. So beware. But similar to that situation, it's like, yeah, we understand you've been here for a long time, but we really should have probably raised the rent 10% every year or 5% plus the cost of living every year to maximize that, but we didn't. And now we could raise it 50% or 100%, but we can't because legally we're not allowed to. So unfortunately, the only way to pull that off is to get you out, not renew, and bring someone else in at this new higher rate. And it's nothing personal. It's just business. Since we are in Georgia, I figured I'd look that one up too. There aren't, someone asked the question, are there any limits to rent increases in Georgia? The answer from Georgia Rent Increase Notice Door Loop, I put up October this year. No, they aren't. Landlords can increase rent prices as much as they want. Georgia has not imposed a cap on the amount that property owners can request for a rental unit. So, yeah, folks, that's that. Rent prices are going up for sure, despite what Redfin and some of these other folks might put out there that rent prices are dropping. You and I know the truth. If you haven't voted in the poll, go check out the community post tab, the community tab, and vote in that poll, and you'll see the results of what rent prices are doing across the country. And the more votes that we can get, the more data that we can collect, the more accurate we can be in what's really going on, and staying in the know, staying educated, getting ready, and being prepared. I appreciate you guys watching. I will have another video coming to you real soon. Until next time, take care, be safe, smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Bye.
I can tell you my problems, meditating my silence, but I keep pushing my pen, rotating my stylus. Brokenness feeling like sin, now no breath, low dollar. Used to be left on red, now all the girls go holler. Now all the girls go follow. All the fake fans gon' pop.